Here we are. Bedrock. Definitely shale. There's a slight dip to this layer. Don't know exactly what that means. Definitely getting more bedrock, and it's getting pretty cool. This here, got this wild little outcrop here. Lots of ripple marks. Unfortunately, the lighting is terrible. Over here. And again, these layers are slightly tilted toward the west. More here. But over here, it is kind of going down a slope. Again, tilted. Definitely fractured. Quite to the bend yet, about halfway up the straightaway. We've definitely got the contact between the till and we're in a murky area with the shale and stuff. This is definitely shale. Grades down. And actually there's a little layer that's slightly lighter colored, kind of more, slightly more brittle. More from the boundary. And here, I think we have contact between two layers. We have the bottom layer, which is more similar to what we've been looking at. Then we got a sharp contact. And this layer follows the slope, but is definitely a little thinner bedding. Much more brittle. Some nice turbidite candidates. Probably gonna start seeing a lot more of those. I will say that I've not seen as many of them to this point. General location right now, not too far off of 95. We do have a pretty fun little shape of turbidite weathering. Same point as the turbidite I just showed. And right here we have a slight, now we're sloping upwards with that same contact I was looking at before, between the more brecciated shale and the slightly more uniform shale. Ooh, this is a cool turbidite. Look at that, friend. Right here, kind of have a bit of a mess, so I'm gonna guess might have had some kind of mass wasting or landslidey activity here. It's a bunch of folds and twists. And we can see now, you can see the bend down at the end, which I'm excited about. But right now we are fully into bedrock for the most part as the base of the creek. Now here we are, we're fully into the bedrock. It looks like we're kind of opening up into what I presume was glacial outwash. There's definitely a valley here before the turn. I'm hoping I can zoom in on that stuff and get an idea what it is. But then you can see that the hillside is kind of, well, maybe you can't, shallower over here. So I'm thinking something could have happened here. We just came from, yeah, here's a better view. So right now the contact between the shale and the till is maybe 2 feet above my feet. All right, this is kind of fun. We just got a tiny little stream here. If you look, it's actually doing the modern day equivalent of building turbidites, or turbidite-like erosion. As we've come from, the water definitely pools here, right at the corner, and finally reached the objective. This is headed down toward Mount Gilead proper, but here we are at the wall, and there is some pretty cool layering. Got kind of a bit of a kind of concretion-y here. Middle. And you can see we keep going up. It's kind of a section where there's a little more thickness to the layers. Moves up, gets very fine, and just gets kind of more broken and uniform layers up toward the top with a definite overhang. We got probably 50-60 foot cliff along the south bank after the river bends. You've got a shallower area here where I'm sure stuff was pouring down the creek at some point. Just over that mound is another, not quite as tall as this, but I think similar, but that's definitely private property. Over there is kind of the low area and the opening in between where the shale dipped below the ground over there. And then we immediately jump in to the bank. Between the thinly bedded, there's a big section up there of slightly more massive layers. Get a look at some of these layers and working our way up slow. Another angle of that little alluvial shelf that's forming.